This is just a quick video to discuss the player drop shadow action that comes with the Pixnub Venom template set. This action does exactly what it says. It will add a drop shadow to the player. A couple of things though, make sure you first added your player into the template. And also, this only works with the SPA player 1 layer here. So if you've put a player in the template manually in a different layer, this action will not work because it works specifically for this layer. So just select the action and hit play. You can see it added the drop shadow behind the player. What it actually does is it puts in a separate layer group behind the player. Inside of that layer group, there is a solid color black layer set to multiply blend mode with a mask. And in this mask is the actual shadow itself. You could move that around wherever you want if you want to move it a little bit. And the reason why it's inside of a group is because I wanted to put an additional mask on that shadow. And so the way to do a layer mask, if your layer already has a layer mask, is you can put that inside a group and add an additional layer mask. And this layer mask is set to the exact shape of this center color hourglass layer. And that way the shadow is only being applied in that area. And the reason why, let's turn this up to 100% opacity. It comes in at 50% opacity, but I'm going to turn it up to 100 here, just so I can show why I have a layer mask in there. So you can see that that shadow only applies to that hourglass shape. Without the layer mask here, you can see that it might be kind of hard to see here. On different colors, it might be more evident. But you can see that that shadow is being applied over the background lighting, which we don't want. But by having the layer mask in there, you can see that shadow no longer applies to that lighting, and it's only applied to that hourglass shape. And that's the reason why I didn't put the drop shadow in the layer themselves. I could have instead, and you can too if you want actually, but you can go in and put a drop shadow right into your player layer here. And you would have to set your size and distance and spread and all that good stuff there. The size is actually the amount of the blur of the shadow. Is kind of, the names aren't really intuitive, but you could, if you want, add a drop shadow layer and then save your template like that. Then when you run the automation, that drop shadow is automatically going to be there every time. So that is one option you can do. But that's not the way I did it because I wanted that layer mask on there. And what you can do too with this action is you can run the action as part of your automation here with one of the post action columns in your data file. And if, like, you could run, like, the first action can be your color changing action, the second action can be your drop shadow action, or if you just need to run one action, if you don't need to run the color changing action, when you run sports photo automation, you can just select that action right here, and then you would not need that action in the data file. However, if you need to run two actions, like for example a color changing action and then the drop shadow action, you would have to do that in a data file because you can only select one action in the batch process settings. Anyways, one last thing too is we delete this layer style here. If you run this action twice, it'll throw an error. I just want to demonstrate that here. So if you've already got this drop shadow in and you try to play that action again, it's going to say the command make is not currently available. And that's because it already had You already had it in a group with a layer mask, and then when it tries to rebuild, it's trying to add in another one, and then when it goes to create the mask, it will select the wrong group that's got the same name, player shadow mask, and that group's already got a mask in it, so it can't make the second mask. So just know that you can't run this twice. If you need to run it again, you need to actually delete that group, and then you can run it again a second time if you need to. So you would delete your group, and then you could run it again. So just keep that in mind if you're manually building composites and you put one player in and then another, you'll need to delete that shadow mask, which you would anyway because the shadow would be in the wrong place. But just keep that in mind. You can't run this action twice.